That's all everybody ready?
What's that? Me too. You know, that's fun. That was a cold shower break. Jeez.
All right. All ready? Call to order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, January the 20th. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and this evening will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by two of our Boy Scouts. They'll step forward, and after they're done, after the pledge, please remain standing. We'll be led in prayer this evening by Clinton Whitson of Greenwood Christian Church.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Lord God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this time, and thank you for the ability to gather in this place. We come humbly before you now to lift up our city, our elected leaders and public servants, and all those who call Greenwood home. As we celebrate this day in memory of the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we ask you to keep in our hearts a spirit of love and generosity for our fellow man. Lord, tonight I pray specifically for unity. I ask that you penetrate our hearts, causing each of us to deeply reflect on the power of working together side by side for shared goals and outcomes. Help us to lay down our pride that so often gets in the way and adopt a sense of humility, driven by a desire to help those who are less able to help themselves. Lord, you are the creator of all. All we have is yours. Yet you give us the ability to steward this amazing planet and this wonderful community we call Greenwood. May we take this responsibility seriously, seek to work collectively, and place the needs of others above our own. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. I've asked the two Boy Scouts to come and introduce themselves and tell us why we're here this evening.
I am Noah Carmers, and I'm here for citizenship in the community fire badge, and I am from Troop 564.
I'm Jackson Stoyer. I'm from Troop 564 as well. And I'm from St. Barnabas. And I've come here for the two merit badges. Well, I came here for the citizenship in the community merit badge.
Roll call.
Bates,
Present.
Campbell,
Here.
Dine,
Here.
Gibson,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Hopper,
Here.
Lexi,
Here.
Pendleton,
Here.
Williams.
Here. We have a quorum. All of you should receive copies of the minutes from our regular meeting on January the 6th. I do have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lexi, second by Mr. Dine. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, roll call on the minutes.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Pendleton,
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Minutes are approved on a vote of 9-0. Reports, Corporation Council.
You should have received the semi-monthly IDEM, the semi-annual IDEM reports on SharePoint, as well as the litigation report. And if you have questions about any of those, please contact me.
All right, anything from the controller at this time? All of you should have received copies of my report from the last RDC meeting. If you have any questions, just let me know. Any other committee or board reports? Seeing none, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Councilor, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Myers. I'm the mayor of Greenwood. I want to thank all of you who are here tonight as members of the family of our new firefighters who are being sworn in. Just want to let you know right off the bat that once these people are sworn in, they're not just members of the fire department. We're all a part of one big family. It's a family that goes 3 generations, I see back in the back. We want you to know that we're gonna take the best care of your family members as possible. We have some of the best training in the state. We have some of the best firefighters in the state. We'll work with them each and every day to give them the tools and the skills and the abilities they need to perform their duties as a firefighter, and we're gonna take care of them. But if you ever notice any problems yourself, or if you think there's something that somebody should be notified of, please don't ever hesitate to give somebody a call, because we wanna take care of each other. We want these men and women to go back home each day safer and in better shape than when they left that day. So thank you for being here, thank you for being a part of it. Chief?
All right, I'd like to call up four of the newest career firefighters for Greenwood Fire Department. Brandon Bennett, Luis Garcia, Brent Rockwell, and Dana Ruark.
All right, if you would, please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Brent Rockwell,
having been appointed to the position of probationary firefighter EMT
having been appointed to the position of firefighter EMT
for the Greenwood Fire Department
for the Greenwood Fire Department
on January 20th, 2020,
on January 20th, 2020.
swear that I will obey
Swear that I will obey
and enforce
and enforce
all of the laws
all of the laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the state of Indiana,
the state of Indiana,
the ordinances of the city of Greenwood,
the ordinances of the city of Greenwood,
and the rules and regulations of the Greenwood Fire Department.
and the rules and regulations of the Greenwood Fire Department.
And I will obey all of the lawful orders
I will obey all the lawful orders
of my superior officers
of my superior officers
and faithfully discharge my duties
and faithfully discharge my duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Welcome here.
And now is a ceremony of the fire department. It's the pinning of the badges. So those members and family members and individuals that are going to pin badges on the new firefighters, please come forward. Congratulations. We have one more oath of office to deliver tonight, and that is for Brandon Nikoloff, who is the newly promoted Division Chief of EMS. Brandon?
You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Brandon Nikoloff,
having been appointed
having been appointed,
to the position of Division Chief of EMS
have been appointed to the position of Division Chief of EMS
for the Greenwood Fire Department
for the Greenwood Fire Department
on January 20th, 2020.
on January 20th, 2020.
Swear that I will obey
Swear that I will obey
and enforce
and enforce
all of the laws
all of the laws
of the United States,
of the United
the
States,
state of Indiana,
state of Indiana,
and the ordinances
and the ordinances
of the city of Greenwood,
of the city of Greenwood,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the Greenwood Fire Department.
of the Greenwood Fire Department.
And I will obey
And I will obey
all of the lawful orders
all of the lawful orders
of my superior officers
of my superior officers
and faithfully discharge my duties
and faithfully discharge my duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Nicole, his wife, will pin the badge. Congratulations.
All of you are welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting, but I understand if you don't. Congratulations to the new probationary officers. At this time, we have the executive director of the social, Andrea Sutherland, here. So,
Good evening, council. Martha is going to hand out a newsletter, handing you a review for you. Again, I'm Andrea Sutherland, Executive Director at the Social of Greenwood. And just for a quick refresh about our organization, we're a nonprofit senior community center that serves about 1,300 members a year. We have a food pantry, and we also have a Rock Steady boxing program. So if you can take a peek at your 2019 highlights, this is always a favorite time of year for me to come back and kind of tell you how we've done, and 2019 was certainly no exception for us. It was a fantastic year. We celebrated our 40th birthday of serving our community. We successfully completed a $663,000 renovation. $500,000 of that was funded by our grant from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, and the social actually funded $163,000 of that. So for a small nonprofit, we're pretty proud of that accomplishment. We've definitely increased our social media presence, held 9 fundraisers over the year, totaling $154,000. 30 programs focusing on health and wellness, social and mental well-being of seniors in our community. So while we were in construction phase, we had to close our doors. However, all of those programs, as well as the administration, all 2 of us, were at off-site locations. And we worked with about 10 different community partners to have all of those programs continued through the 7-month period of our renovation. And we actually saw an increase in membership at that time, and they continued to participate in all of those programs, which I think speaks volumes of the need of our organization for seniors in our community. Another exciting accomplishment that we did this year is we bought a box truck for our food pantry. You'll see it driving around town. We're very proud of that. Our food pantry is open 3 days a week for those in need in the community, and we serve about 8,000 families annually. Our Rock Steady boxing program has 132 men and women who are battling Parkinson's disease and fighting the battle every day. Just last week we had 7 new boxers, so we were definitely on the radar of that program being expanded, the need to add classes, the need to add coaches. And we log in at about over 1,300 members, like I said before. So we're always busy, and we're very thankful for the City of Greenwood's support. Coming up in 2020, we're not slowing down any. We have parking issues that we need to address, so we're going to focus on our parking lot on the west side of our building, trying to secure funding for that. We also have some walk-ins that we need to get up and working for our food pantry. And those are kind of the 2 main goals that we're going for this year. Of course, there will be more. So, do you guys have any questions for me or anything? We're very thankful for your support as always.
You all do a great job. We appreciate the work the social does.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Later on the agenda, council, you'll notice that there is a contract for the social. We will wait and do that later on, but we partner with the mayor, and the contract states that the council gives the social $20,000 and the mayor's office gives them $20,000 for a total of $40,000. And I think we can see that money is well used. We appreciate the work they do. All right, this time, if we set aside an opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning matters that are on the agenda. So if you're here tonight and would like to address the council, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and there is a 5-minute time limit. Anyone? All right, seeing none, moving on. Ordinances and resolutions. Notice of intent to consider ordinance number 2004.
An ordinance to amend the official zoning map adopted by reference in zoning ordinance number 82-1 as amended, proposed rezoning of approximately 11.89 acres located on the southeast corner of East Main Street and Commerce Parkway Drive East, sponsored by Dime.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second. Second by Mr. Lexi. One of the things I like about having Boy Scouts here is that I get to stop and explain how we do things, and I'm sure sometimes other people like to know as well. Most ordinances that are and resolutions that come before the council, it's a 3-meeting process. There's an introduction, then 2 weeks later a first reading and a vote, and then 2 weeks later a second reading and a vote. On items under notice of intent to consider, they come before the council only once. They come to us from the planning department, and so tonight it's introduced, there's one vote, and it's done and over. You'll see later on, we'll suspend the rules possibly. There'll be a request to suspend the rules, and we'll explain that as well. But this tonight, ordinance 2004, it's introduced in one vote, either up or down. So, sorry, go right ahead.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Dale Davis, Planning Director for the City of Greenwood. The request before you tonight is a rezone of this property. It actually has 2 zones on it currently. The northern portion of it is C2. The southern portion of it is I2. This rezone would make the entire property I2 with commitments, and those commitments would be no outdoor storage. It would comply with the 65 overlay, and the landscape and buffering would be installed as presented at the Plan Commission. And the rezone is requested to build this building. There are no plans beyond a site plan at this point, but I can show you this building. As you see, north is to your right. You can see towards the bottom of the page, the developer has included the pond as well as buffering that exceeds our ordinance requirements on the side of the residential homes. This did get unanimous favorable recommendation from Plan Commission. Our petitioner is in the audience. If you have any questions for our petitioner or for myself, we are happy to answer those. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Mr. Davis? Any discussion on the council? All right, seeing none, then roll call. Ordinance 2004.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ordinance 2004 passes on a vote of 9-0. First reading, ordinance 2001.
An ordinance to reestablish a cumulative capital development fund pursuant to Indiana Code Section 36.915.5, sponsored by Gibson.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
By Mr. Dine. Any discussion on the council? See none. Roll call, ordinance 2001, first reading.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ordinance 2001 passes first reading, 9-1. Ordinance 2002.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Procedural question. So far, I've noticed that I vote every time on an issue. Aren't we supposed to alternate that?
I don't know if there's a rule. Normally the clerk does that, but.
Normally she does, but as
You don't
long as
have to-
everyone gets an opportunity. to
Right,
vote.
cause you just, the next time you would go with the next person alphabetically, the next time the next
Yeah,
person
it's-
alphabetically. At least that's how.
That's
always been
typically the
passed.
way it's been done. I'm not sure that there's
It's
a
not
rule
that.
that states that it has to be done that way. That's something the clerk has typically
Oh.
done.
Okay,
The clerk is here.
well, it's just something I noticed and I'd like to get a clarification on it.
Well, on roll
If
call,
I have to vote every time, since I'm first now, I will, but,
on roll call and minutes.
Right.
You're always first.
yes, ma'am,
And then the next one you'd be first. She just accidentally forgot to do you on that one.
good, okay. So the next time we vote on something like this coming up here, I'll vote last, not
Correct.
first. Okay.
All right, anything else?
Not at this time.
All right, ordinance 2002.
An ordinance providing for additional appropriation from the clerk's record perpetuation fund to budget classification 111, $31,871.28 in the city court budget, the cumulative capital development fund to budget classification 442, $566,802, and the cumulative capital improvement tax levy fund to budget classification 442, $389,308, sponsored by Hopper.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Lexi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dine. This is scheduled for a public hearing, and so we will open it up for a public hearing. If you would like to speak for or against ordinance 2002, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Campbell, I was not able, Dale Margaret, I would ask that we pull that off because the links to be able to read this were not available before the meeting. So when I went in to try to read this ordinance, it was impossible for anybody to get it due to the permissions. So it's hard to talk on something when the public hasn't had the opportunity to read it and see just what it says or why.
Well, I was unaware of that circumstance, however, it was on our agenda last meeting, and it will be on our agenda at the next meeting, so there'll be ample opportunity for you to
They're
read.
also were listed separately. We sent you an email stating that. They were on the website separately.
Well, that's true. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against ordinance 2002? I said it would be on next agenda. That may not be true because there is a request to suspend the rules, but it has been on the agenda in the past. All right, anybody else? Seeing none, close the public hearing. For our Boy Scouts, this is an additional appropriations, which means this is money that was not in the budget. We approve the budget every year, and when it's in the budget, it's fine, but if they want to spend money that's not in the budget, they have to come before the council and ask for an additional appropriations, and all of those require public hearings. So that's why we did that tonight. All right, any further discussion, ordinance 2002? Seeing none, roll call, first reading, ordinance 2002.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Pendleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Ordinance 2002 passes first reading 9-0. There is a request for suspension of the rules through second reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dine,
Second.
second by Mr. Hopper. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call on suspension of ordinance, or the rules on ordinance 2002 through second reading.
Dine,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill, Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Pendleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye. Rules are suspended through second reading. This is one of those opportunities where I mentioned there's a first reading and a second reading. If we want to get this through in one night, you have to suspend the rules, and that's what we just did. So, all right, do I have a motion for second reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second
Second.
by Mr. Dine. Any discussion, further discussion on ordinance 2002, or any questions for Mr. Wright since he's been so kindly standing here? He'd rather you not, I guess, but yeah. All right, seeing any discussion? Seeing none, then roll call. Ordinance 2002, second reading.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Pendleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Ordinance 2002 passes second reading 9-0. Ordinance 2003.
An ordinance amending Greenwood Municipal Code 1993, Chapter 6, Article 9, Section 6309 to increase the user fee for trash collection and curbside recycling services, sponsored by Campbell.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Dine, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pendleton. All right, Mr. Wright.
I know last meeting I did give a presentation on this. This one's a little bit shorter. I just want to reiterate some of what we went through. So these are our current rates that we are contracted with Best Way. This is just for Best Way to pick up the trash that people set out in front of their homes. Right now they're charging us $9.95, then it goes up to $10.45, et cetera, et cetera. Currently, for the additional service that we offer, which the leaf and limb and all of that, the current rates are $5.50 per month above the Best Way charge. Our proposed structure would increase that amount by $1 over the next 4 increases, so 25 cents per step increase. At the end of that step increase, the Waste Management Department would generate an additional estimated $200,000 annually. Currently, their budget for this year is $3,586,000, including debt service payments on leases for several pieces of equipment. We have multiple gravel trucks, the tuck grinder, the leaf machine, dump trucks with the plow, and 3/4 ton truck with the plow. And our current estimated revenues are 3.4. So obviously you can see we've got a little bit of a shortfall that we're using cash for this year. We've had increased use with the service, so we've been expanding our staff and equipment. We do anticipate it's going to continue to grow. And then this is the last slide that kind of addresses what we're asking for. So the proposed rates beginning March would be $1,570 per month per home, and then up to, at the end of the 5-year period, $1,860 per month per home. I did check and see what I pay for trash service. I live just out off of Smith Valley and Peterman, so just outside White River Township. It's $78 per quarter. That's $26 per month. That gets me trash pickup and recycling pickup. Does not include leaf and limb. So there's one thing that people within the city limits are getting that we're not getting out in White River. So the proposed rate for March 2020 is actually 65% cheaper than anybody's paid in White River Township right now.
All right, this is also scheduled for a public hearing, so at this time we'll open it up for a public hearing. If you are here to speak for or against ordinance 2003, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, then we will close the public hearing. Any discussion on the council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a few comments to make. I cannot support this ordinance for the following reasons. First, it does not take into consideration the most vulnerable of our citizens, our seniors. Many, if not all of them, are on a very limited and tight budget. I'm aware of several of our seniors who live alone and may generate enough garbage for a month or so before pickup is necessary. Secondly, it does not take into consideration our most recent housing developments. It will take years for these developments to utilize leaf and limb pickup. Why do these residents have to pay for a service that they do not need? Third, this program hedges on being socialistic. Abraham Lincoln said, among other things, the legitimate object of government is to do for a community of people whatever they need to have done, but cannot do at all, or cannot do so well do for themselves in their separate and individual capacities. Again, why should residents pay for a service at the expense of others? Fourth, this program creates more local bureaucracy. I would advocate that the city get out of the scavenger business and turn it over to the private sector. The city could approve 3 reputable scavenger companies to operate in the city. Each resident could contract with a scavenger of choice that best suits their needs. This would create competition among, would keep the costs down. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bates. Anyone else on the council? Yes, Mr. Dunn.
I'm bragging to people about the services we have with tree limbs and leaves and stuff. And if we don't approve this, what are we going to have to cut back, or what are we gonna lose in services?
More than likely, it would be capital that would be withheld, or probably some maintenance costs. We really can't afford to cut a position, because we do need the people out there doing the work. So for the most part, the first thing to go is capital. So we'd be using aging equipment longer.
Thank you. Mr. Bates, I'm in that position. I could go every 2 weeks and only have my trash picked up, but it comes every week to a third of a trash container, so I understand that point too.
Yes, Ms. Gibson?
Mr. Bates, when the city first started having citywide collection, our rates were higher as an individual contracting with the scavenger service, and they were the rates that we had as a city. If individuals go out there and they do their own contracting, we're not going to have the heavy trash pickup. And if you pay attention the next time there's heavy trash pickup, you're going to find that there's a lot of things there that we might find sitting on the side of houses or behind houses. So, and you know, I don't have a child in school, but I'm still expected to pay school taxes, because when my kids were younger, there were other seniors that were still paying for those services. So I think it's part of being a city. There's a lot of things that we do use. There's a lot of things that we don't. I understand the situation with seniors. I'm on the board at the social, but I just don't see as a city that we have an option about that. And I'm like Mr. Dine. I don't even have enough trash to take it out each week.
I think the flip side for the seniors is that they might not use a lot of the trash service, but they probably rely more on the leaf and limb than young people in a new home do. A lot of seniors live in older homes with lots of leaves and lots of limbs.
But you have a lot of seniors that are in condo communities.
True.
You know, also.
True. But
I just think that we have to be mindful that not all of us use all of the services within the city.
And I think that overall it's a really good deal. The heavy trash pickup is phenomenal. Leaf and limb is phenomenal. The trash service is good, and my concern about using more than one trash service if we went private would be how many days per week is a trash truck going to be coming up and down my street? Right now it's one, but under a different system it could be 3 days a week where there are trash trucks coming up and down the street.
And you have those containers sitting out there then 3 days.
Right.
All right, any further discussion on the council? Seeing none, then roll call, first reading, ordinance 2003.
Dixon,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Benton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine.
Aye. Ordinance 2003 passes first reading and a vote of 8-1. Second reading, there is none. New business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance 2005.
An ordinance amending the 2020 salary ordinance, Common Council Ordinance number 1928, to include the Director of Human Resources position in the Human Resources Department, sponsored by Gibson.
Anybody want to speak to this? Wow.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
In relation to this ordinance, the deputy mayor and myself have been talking about this for quite some time. Lisa Best, who's our HR coordinator right now, has been in that position for about 5 years. She's done an amazing job. She's now leading 2 other part-time people, and she oversees all of the hiring process with each and every person that gets hired within the city. We feel that at this time it's time to change that position from coordinator and bring her up to the director position level. There will be no salary increase. It's simply to go along with the rest of the directors throughout the departments in the city.
All right, any questions from the mayor? I do have one question, maybe not for you, but
I'll accept that.
first of all, I think it's a good idea. I'm glad you're doing this. But on the breakdown of how her salary is, whether it's funded by the general fund or stormwater or sewer or whatever, the salary is the same as it was in the salary ordinance, but the breakdown is different. Was there a reason for that? That's.
If it's not the same, then
It's
I'll
not
have
the
to
same.
take a look at it. because
Yeah, in the salary ordinance, it's 70% general fund, 10 stormwater, 10 SW,
That's what it should stay as.
and then 5 MVH and 5 parks, whereas in the current ordinance, it's 97 and 3 and 00.
Should be the same for what the
Yeah,
human
change.
resources
We'll
coordinator
amend that when it
was
comes back.
before, so we'll
We'll
check that.
amend
We
it?
have to do an amendment
Yes.
to correct it next time.
All right, well, we'll wait and do the amendment later once they check on it, so if that's necessary.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. I was really checking to see if there was a salary increase, and so, anyway, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 20, or resolution 2001.
A resolution declaring certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. CA Industrial Holdings LLC through an entity to be formed, sponsored by Hopper and Campbell.
Mr. Sherman.
Thank you, Pat Sherman, Compass Point CPAs. What you have in your packet is CA Industrial Holdings LLC. It is for the construction of approximately 150,000 square foot speculative building that's out on East Main Street, 2421 East Main Street. That building is an investment just in the building itself, $7.5 million. The building would start in July of this year and would be completed in June 30, 2021. So it's in the sweet spot for the city and the county as far as the size of the building. It can easily be devised into 50,000 square foot, which is a good size for our community to attract light manufacturing and different the higher paying businesses. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Any questions for Mr. Sherman?
Mr. McGill comes down from Chicago for each one of our meetings. I would ask, in order to reduce his number of commutes, if it would be possible to see if we could suspend the rules tonight through first reading, which would reduce the number from 4 to 3 for his commute.
All right, we have a request for suspension of the rules through first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call on suspension of the rules through first reading on resolution 2001.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through first reading. Do I have a motion on first reading?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second. By Mr. Dine. Any discussion on resolution 2001? All right, seeing none, roll call, resolution 2001, first reading.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Middleton.
Nay.
Williams.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Resolution 2001 passes first reading 8-1. Just a note, because it was suspended, rules were suspended tonight, the public hearing time will be different, and that'll show up on our next council meeting agenda. So. All right. Thank you. Resolution 2002.
A resolution approving an interlocal agreement between the city of Greenwood and Pleasant Township, Johnson County regarding fire protection, sponsored by Gibson.
areas of Pleasant Township that don't fall within the city of Greenwood city limits.
Any questions for the chief? We do this every year?
Yes, sir.
All right, I guess there are no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Resolution 2003.
A resolution of the Greenwood Common Council approving an interlocal agreement between the City of Greenwood, City of Franklin, Town of Whiteland, and Johnson County regarding allocation of Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funds for rail corridor safety improvements and related matters, sponsored by Hopper, Williams, and Gibson.
Mr. Johnston, how are you?
Good evening. Daniel Johnston, City Engineer, and so just a couple of high points about this interlocal agreement. The Johnson County Highway Department is the lead for this joint effort between the county, Greenwood, Franklin, and Whiteland. Purpose is to make safety improvements to certain crossings within Johnson County. 4 of our crossings within Greenwood will actually receive improvements. And graphic here. Hope you're able to see that there. These are the locations that are part of the project. So very quickly, the green dots that stop 18 and Morseville Road, those actually already have adequate crossing arm equipment. So those will not receive any improvements. The 4 orange locations there, that's Meridian Street, Broadway Street, Main Street, and Pushville Road. Those will all receive, depending upon the existing equipment already there, they could be pedestrian arms, improved vehicle crossing arms, audible alarms and signals, that type of thing. And then the one red dot is actually Academy, and that crossing is scheduled to be closed as part of this project, since it is just 300 feet away from Broadway, which could be used instead. Since this is a federally funded safety project, the breakdown on the split, local share and federal share is 90%, 10%. Our 10% covers design, materials, labor, construction for our crossings, and that current estimate is about $87,501. That's going to be the Greenwood share. That's it.
All right, any questions for Mr. Johnson? Yes.
The criteria for this, is that set up by the railroad company or by the federal government that's giving this money? And do we have any input on what we feel needs to be done to these intersections? Where we do have some input, or is it a blanket rule that said this is what we use and this is what you get?
No, we have been coordinating with the county, or through the county highway department to the railroad company, I should have clarified, the Louisville, Indianapolis Railroad Company. Regarding the improvements, for example, at Broadway, since there is an existing sidewalk there, we requested a pedestrian crossing arm. So we do have some input.
And please get a good number for maintenance after they get this done, because there's nothing sadder than trying to figure out who to call for that.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. All right, miscellaneous business. This is a second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council. This time, though, concerning items that are not on the agenda. So if you'd like to address the council at this time, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Bruce Armstrong, former councilman, and 1492 Cherry Blossom Court. I forgot to turn in my key and my badge, and was going to offer to give it to my replacement, Mr. Williams.
All right, thank you.
That key goes to that door, and that goes to all the electronic locks.
All right, anyone else wish to address the council at this time? All right. Moving on, other miscellaneous business. Council. We do have a contract all of you should receive copies of for the social. Any questions about that? Do you have a motion to accept this contract? Motion by Mr. Bates. I didn't recognize your voice that far away. Motion by Mr. Bates, second by Mr. Williams. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? For the record, it was passed unanimously. Other miscellaneous business, Corporation Council.
We have a lengthy, about 27 list of conflicts of interest that need to be accepted at a public meeting. There was one addition since all of these came in. We also have an additional conflict of interest that we received from Melinda Leach, who's a part-time stormwater receptionist for independent contracting with the city for transcription and additional tasks as approved from time to time. Since all of these are pretty much on the list and we read hers out, you can either have me read all of these in the record individually, or you can approve them as submitted at this public meeting for acceptance as attached to the minutes, because they've all been in on an agenda.
I would ask the council if you would consider making a motion to accept all of these as presented, and that the ones that are on the agenda and the one that was read into the meeting tonight. Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? For the record, let it show that it was passed unanimously.
That is all I have.
All right, anything from the controller? Anything from the mayor's office?
Nothing from the mayor's office.
All right, thank you all. We are dismissed. Adjourned. I do believe the council, there are some ordinances that need to be signed, and so don't leave